Aloha. Oh, so nice to see everybody. Wow, what a beautiful turnout. I'm so grateful to see all the faces and some old friends and hopefully some new friends. And so my name is Dash Kerr. I'm the executive director for Hawaii Institute of Pacific Agriculture. We're a 501c3 nonprofit up here in North Kohala, also known as HIP Agriculture, dedicated to basically practicing and teaching regenerative agriculture. And just so happy to be here. I've been farming now, believe it or not, for 14 years in North Kohala. And I've had many different roles from, almost like a woofer, but I guess I was a farm manager at that time. Farm manager, principal leader for the farm. Now we own a farm up here in North Kohala out in the Elite East Side. And wow, what a learning journey and adventure trying to discover how to have a profitable and successful farm in North Kohala. And it was actually out farming Niuli'i that inspired us to create the nonprofit organization, because we were living in such a state of sheer food abundance and food security. And it was just incredible. We're like surrounded by all this produce and starch crops in the ground and vegetables. And at that time we were working for a wealthy landowner in North Kohala, and we kind of realized that food abundance was exclusive, it seemed at the time. Like others didn't have access. So we really created and founded the nonprofit organization, I would say, to create, in a sense, food sovereignty, food access, food justice. We wanted to liberate that knowledge of how do you make your land abundant and plentiful. And so, fast forward, it's so cool to be here in this workshop where we get to share these opportunities to create abundance. And after a couple years, we sold our farm of 10 years out Halawa side and just moved to Niuli'i and just got settled after 2 years. And, post, as this pandemic's hopefully coming to an end, I'm just so thrilled to be announcing such an exciting initiative, the Seed to Market initiative to build food security for Kohala. And I'm absolutely thrilled because this isn't just HIP that is behind this initiative, but the vision is a multi-organization, multi-year effort to create long-term food security in this region. And we're going to share more about that today. And I want to shout out some of the other key partners for it are the Kohala Food Hub, under leadership of our director, Maya Parrish. She's over here. Shout out Maya right there. There's Maya. So Food Hub director, and then another key nonprofit, Kahua Pua. I was saying it all morning, but Kahua Pa'amua, thank you very much, with Uncle David Fortes, who's been like a longtime leader for agriculture in North Kohala, and we're just so stoked to be collaborating with him because through the Kohala Food Hub, we have a network of anywhere from 5 to 25 growers that are supplying the online market and some of the other feeding programs. And then David equally has a pretty substantial network of backyard growers. So our kind of vision, we really started when we were talking about this initiative, and a big part of it was started through the fires that were happening up on the Mauna, the largest fire in the history of the state, right on Big Island. And we're saying, like, how do we address all these crazy crises that are heading our way? How do we address changing climate? All the global scientists, and we know that our two biggest food producing regions in the nation, Iowa and California, they're actually in serious and precipitous decline in their ability to continue to produce food for us. And so how do we address these multifold crises that are coming our way? And we started envisioning this like 10,000 fruit tree planting initiative. Like, let's plant all of these fruit trees in North Kohala. Let's address climate. Let's create food security. All these new orchards and all these new trees are going to take people, weed whacking and fertilizing and pruning. Let's create new jobs. And let's really work. Let's kick off this initiative and reach out and call and activate as many individual growers, backyard growers, bigger landowners that have some ground. And let's make a really collaborative effort to build a local regional economy. It's going to take some time, folks. We've been working on it 14 years, and It's like we're making progress, but this is, I think, could be the beginning of just a very beautiful multi-year effort. And we're so excited to invite you all, into that vision and picture. And this challenge of how do we drive up regional production, and also how do we drive up consumer demand? And I'll say right now, with our work through the Kohala Food Hub over the last 6 months to, actually it's been 2 years since the Kohala Food Hub launched, what we are clear of right now is that demand outstrips supply. So for those of you that got ground and interest, there's opportunity. Our partners, we're part of a statewide food hub hui that includes 14 food hubs all over the state. And our partners in Oahu, they are voracious for fresh produce. We could be shipping as much on that side. Not that we even want to ship off island, but we're looking at multiple efforts. Another huge piece is that, we've been working diligently to get the Kohala Food Hub GAP certified, which is going to allow us to start supplying Department of Education and farm to school. And we had some really key legislation passed at the Capitol this last year that are mandating Department of Education purchases at least 30% local produce. And again, these are huge opportunities for everybody here because, what did the 3 years that we were selling to the Kohala cafeteria as the first nonprofit in the state to sell directly into a cafeteria, the things that they were buying were citrus, bananas, papayas, and some of our fresh vegetables. So we know we can scale that once we sort out the GAP certification, and we're in process of getting a Department of Defense vendor status so that DOE can use their DOD money to purchase local produce. So often I think about these food systems and how we create them as these it's like a big puzzle that we're working through. And it's going to take, again, this kind of collaborative and cooperative effort. And, speaking about that, what are those crops that thrive in North Kohala? And based on those 14 years of growing, we kind of have a sense, we know a lot of growers, and that's really going to be the emphasis of the 5 workshops that we do this year, is sharing practical knowledge to give you the ability to grow these key crops that we see an opportunity for us to, drive up this regional production with. What do you think? Sound good? Oh, yeah. Has anybody heard of Wangari Maathai? She was the first Kenyan woman to get a doctorate degree out of the US, and she left Kenya, did her study abroad, and then she returns to Kenya, and she gets home to her village, and the stream that she grew up playing in is no longer running. And she's like, what's going on? And she goes up the watershed, and the entire forest has been cut. And the male government, running the country at that time, was basically deforesting the whole of Kenya. And so Wangari Maathai, she basically starts organizing. She goes home and she's like, this can't be. She starts organizing small groups of women to plant trees. And they organize and they start these little nurseries, and they plant a few trees, and then they plant a few more trees. And before you know it, this movement really takes hold. And you got women all over Kenya planting trees. And it's the Green Belt movement, the Kenyan Green Belt movement. And they actually reforest pretty much the whole of Kenya, to the point where this green belt stretches beyond Kenya now, and they bring back the rain. The rivers start running again. The river that she grew up playing starts running again. And, she did this with major effort. I mean, she was attacked. Check. She was attacked by the government. She was beaten. She was imprisoned. But I bring her up to share this kind of picture and vision of how powerful it could be, just our small group, starting to plant trees, starting to inspire others, having this conversation. How do we address climate? How do we address food security? And so that's pretty exciting for me. I also want to take a pause and a moment just to honor and recognize the late Tim Head. Does anyone know Tim Head? Yay! Tim Head, yeah. And Tim's such an amazing uncle. We lived on property. We lived on Starseed with him for 3 years before we got the opportunity to buy it. But he must have been 82 or 84 when he decided he was going to start a coconut revolution in North Kohala. And he, because of his efforts, because of the workshops they organized at the time, it caused a big wave of coconut plantings up in this area. We brought, at that time, Trent, who's going to be speaking today, was working with another dear uncle, which we'll shout out in a moment. I'll let you guys shout him out. Growing incredible dwarf coconut seed, and Tim had brought those first waves of dwarf coconuts out, and we planted 100 of them up at Bennett's, we planted 60 up at the Winters, we planted another 40, at our place, and they're all coming on right now, starting to flower. And I bring it up because isn't that so beautiful in your 80s to organize a tree planting revolution that you might not even eat the coconuts, but now look how blessed we are, to actually, these are the trees that we planted because of Tim that you all are going to be drinking off of today. And so with that, I kind of am like, are you guys ready for the coconut revolution? All right, well, again, so many opportunities this year to plug in. We're going to be sharing so much information, practical information, workshops, ways that you can sell into the Kohala Food Hub. Maybe some of you want to join and be part of the multi-farm CSA program. You could grow some fresh produce for that we're going to be selling through Kohala Food Hub. And there's just, lots of opportunities to plug in. If you want to volunteer, we're going to be doing some tree planting days this year, so you could show up. Imagine if this whole room showed up at a property, and then we did it 4 more times. We could probably put in, 500 trees this year or something crazy. So, all right, you guys ready? Bless. So without further ado, let's get a big round of applause for our main guest educator today, Trent Grant.
Thank you, Dash. Yeah. So inspiring. Thank you for organizing this event and, doing all the work you guys have been doing the last 14 years. It's, it shows, and I can just see the community and the culture rooting into the ground and really being prolific. So, yeah. Thank you guys for coming out today and also being interested in planting trees and especially coconut trees. I've been collecting and really obsessed with coconuts for the last 10 years, and in particular trying to find these varieties that have been kind of lost in time. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, dwarf coconuts. There's 3 major types of coconuts. Tall coconuts, which we're all kind of used to seeing. And then there's dwarf coconuts, which are a little bit more rare. And a lot of times people call them Samoan coconuts in Hawaii. But Samoan dwarf coconuts are a type of dwarf. So we have in our collection, we have about 7 to 10 varieties that we've collected, and Dash mentioned Tim. Tim was a major collector, and I also worked with Philip Young, the late Philip Young, who actually passed away this past, or 2 years ago now. And they were actually friends, but a quick funny little story, I was moving to Kauai, and the day I got there to move to this coconut farm, Tim was there buying 100 trees to ship back to Kohala. And so the day I get to Kauai, I get to be a part of, not only the coconut nursery and the collection over there, but also shipping back 100 trees to Kohala. And some of the trees that I'm offering to sell today are from those trees that Dash planted at the Winters and Tim brought back. So it's amazing how small the community can be and how powerful one planting can be. Now, like, we've harvested, and really big up to the Winters, because John and Deborah, because they actually are allowing me to harvest the seeds for free and bring those out to the community. So, big up them, because it's a huge resource. And like I said before, these trees are very rare to find, a lot of these varieties. So so why don't we get into the slide here. This is a red Malayan dwarf, and that's about 5 years old, and it's about chest high, so that's what these coconuts can do, in 5 years, basically become a mature coconut tree producing like almost full production, and that's in ideal conditions. So why don't we move on to the next slide. I'm going to talk a little about cultivation. This is Palu Lugari, also another revolutionary tree planter in Colombia. They reforested a huge part of the savanna and brought back the rain there. So really, for us, planting trees is the most important thing that we could be doing right now with the climate crisis, and millions of people starving all around the world. Trees can feed people like in a sustainable, regenerative way. So coconuts are incredible. They produce so many different things. So, from one tree, you can, drink, eat, build a house. It's medicine, it's cloth, it's so much fertility. It's a whole ecosystem in a tree. So, pretty profound. But let's get into cultivating these trees. Dwarf coconuts, can we change the slide? Dwarf coconuts are a little different than talls. Of course, they don't grow as fast, so they don't need as much nitrogen and as much food, nutrients, as tall trees. But some of the characteristics, dwarfs can start producing in 4 to 5 years. They grow about half as slow as talls, so they're much easier to harvest for longer periods of time, making maintenance and harvesting a lot easier and cost effective. There's also other potential products or produce that can be utilized by growing dwarfs. The flower of the coconut can be tapped for nectar. And so when you're planting tall trees, of course, the trees, 15 feet in 10 years, you can't harvest a tree as easily. And so, growing dwarfs, harvesting the tender nuts for drinking, to bring to market, is much easier, and tapping the flowers is much easier as well. So, and I can explain that a little bit more later. More intercropping potential, or different potentials. The dwarfs stay shorter, so more sunlight is allowed through the canopy, allowing for a denser intercropping ability. Coconut trees in general are very hardy, so they don't really need windbreaks, which is great in Kohala and in Hawaii. And yeah, also, being short and being able to see into the crown for longer periods of time as the tree matures also helps with identifying diseases and seeing pests and addressing those issues a lot easier than having to climb or have a boom truck to get into your tree. And also, coconuts and dwarf coconuts, they're fruiting every month. They shoot out another flower. So it's an all year round crop. It's not a seasonal crop like a lot of fruit trees, which is really beneficial. And also for pollinators. So let's get into cultivating these trees. The coconut is, it's incredible. It's a palm, so it has a very large root ball underneath. It doesn't have a taproot. So there's a lot of importance should be taken when planting, and for the first 3 years, really, taking care of the tree, giving it what it needs so that the root balls can form, and it increases the absorption rate of nutrients, and in turn increases the production. So that's what we're focusing on let's go to the next slide. In these next slides, cultivation, I really stress, like the first 3 years is really important to increasing that potential for production. So, like a lot of trees and plants, the springtime is ideal. Right now is a great time to plant, going into long season. When we're identifying an area to plant coconut trees and dwarfs especially, we want maximum sunlight. Trees, coconuts evolve next to the shore, next to the ocean where there's always a lot of sun and heat. So they like to be in full sun, from the beginning. But they also like lots of water as well. So, and food, they're really heavy feeders. So, ideally, when you're looking at a site, around 1,000 feet or below is ideal. Coconuts, they can, grow above 1,000 feet, but as you start to get higher, there's more cloud cover. It's a little cooler, so they're not as productive. You can still, expect some production, but not as much as you get lower towards the ocean. For spacing, 25 to 30 feet apart is ideal to reduce root competition and sun competition. That also allows for some room for companion planting. Like I said before, coconuts are heavy feeders. So focusing on, digging a nice big hole for your coconut and really putting a lot of goodies in there. I have some recommendations down here. I mean, of course, you don't have to put all of that in, but if you want to, then the coconut's gonna, be a lot happier and produce a lot faster. It's a pretty big achievement to plant a seedling and expect fruit 4 years later, and really maximum production in 5 years. So the more love you give your trees, the more you can expect from them, the sooner. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, like I said, they're heavy feeders. So, for creating a schedule for fertilization after planting, I recommend like every 4 months, 3 to 4 months, doing a fertilization. Whatever whatever you can afford to give your trees. Mulch is especially helpful. Mulching any trees is important. Really increasing the fertility in the soil and the micronutrients and the ability of the trees to absorb the fertility. Yeah, so I'm going to use the dry erase board here pretty soon, but palms have these root balls. So when you're fertilizing and you're amending this and top dressing the soil, you don't want to be right next to the trunk. You want to kind of go about a foot out, for the first fertilization, and then expect the root ball to kind of continue to grow. So you're always kind of moving outward. As you're fertilizing and as the tree's getting larger, and mulching further out, watering further out, because the roots are out there, and so you don't want all this fertility right next to the trunk of the tree. You want it spread out. So keeping the tree wet, I recommend 5 gallons every couple days. It's a lot of water, but if you really want to expect those early yields, you really want to keep the trees wet. So 5 gallons every couple days for the first few months, and then you can increase to every day after 4 months. Next slide. Why don't we hop over here to the dry erase board? I'm going to kind of explain some planting techniques and how we want to place the tree in the hole when we're planting it, because that's pretty important. So I'm going to be drawing a little diagram here. So when you're planting coconut trees or palms in general, they don't have to be level with the ground like a lot of trees. Coconuts can actually be sunk into the ground a little bit. So we call it a basin. So when you're planting, you can create a basin or a bowl shape, right? And this isn't going to be perfect, but say this is the level of the ground here, and we're creating a basin. And when we plant the coconut, it can be down pretty low here. So when we're prepping the holes, this is like, say, the hole that you're digging and putting all your amendments in down here, and then you kind of fill that in. Depending if you're planting a sprout or a potted tree, of course you're gonna have to leave some space in here. But anyway, you're backfilling this with all your goodies, and then placing the tree. The sprout is down here, so it's below the earth, and this is mainly for a little drier regions. If you're in a really wet, if you're planting like right next to a stream, you don't really have to do this. You could even plant it, with the surface or even on a mound. But a lot of places, if you're in a pasture or in a kind of a plateau between gulches or kind of in a drier area, you're going to want to create this basin. And so, here's the tree. When you're planting the tree, kind of pointing it in the direction of the sunlight, or where the sun is going to be traveling. And then here's our little coconut. And then, backfilling this with a little mulch. But over time, this is going to just keep filling in. And as the tree grows and gets a trunk, let me get this. I'm not the best artist here, but so as the tree, in a couple years, as it starts to get its trunk and really, branch out here, we're going to be, back kind of continually mulching the tree. So this is going to start to fill up, and then eventually, if you're mulching up to the trunk, that's fine, and this hole starts to fill back in, and the roots actually will come out of the trunk. So what we're doing here is enabling the tree to expand the root ball and grow a larger root ball, which will help with production, maximizing production. So, okay, let's go to the next slide. So continually, and then after the 4th month, here I talk about, composting more, and of course you don't need to use all that, but whatever you have access to, because the coconuts will eat all that up. Just stimulating the root ball. Compost teas, are great. Lots of mulch. And so, as the palm matures, it can drink, if it's dry, and this is, depending on rainfall, but if it's dry, if a dry spell or whatever, the trees can drink 10 to 15 gallons a day, or every few days. So you just kind of want to observe, how much your coconuts are drinking. If you water and then in a couple of days it looks dry, give it some more water. And we're talking about, production farming here. So this is ideal conditions for maximum production. All right, what do we got next here? Next slide. Boron is one of the most important elements, minerals, for coconuts and a lot of fruit trees. But I suggest, watering. You could water with salt water, just straight salt water or ocean water, and that's going to help hold the fruit. So if you have coconut trees that are already producing and coconuts are falling off, they probably need to be fertilized, and especially with boron as well, because that's going to allow the tree to hold more of its fruits. This is just some ideas, for planting, orchards, things to think about. Coconut trees are really sweet, so you got to keep them away from horses, cows, goats, sheep even, and of course pigs. And pigs won't eat the crown, so if you're using pigs in your forestry systems, they can probably be let back in like 5 or 6 years, but. I think we're getting to some varieties, some nice pictures. Should we see companion plants? Coconut trees are a great host plant. They let a lot of sunlight in, and they also, protect. They're good windbreaks. So, or secondary windbreaks. They don't. Of course, they're not super tall, but for lower crops, they make a nice little windbreak. But you want to make sure not to plant anything too aggressive, a root system that's too aggressive next to the trees because of that competition. So, smaller stuff can be, 5 to 10 feet, medium stuff, 30 feet, 20 to 30 feet, and then larger trees you want far away. So, yeah, let's check out the next slides here. Here's a green dwarf. This is kind of a traditional dwarf, what a lot of people see, which is a Samoan type. But this is about, 5 years old, pretty close to the ground. I think the next one we have a yellow Malaysian, which is one of my favorite varieties. And all these varieties, they have similar flavors, subtle differences. But all the water is real sweet. The nutrient content is kind of depending on how you're fertilizing. The oil content and the sweetness there's small variations, but a lot of it's pretty similar. I think we have a golden Samoan next. Oh, this is a really productive tree. And there's subtle variations. So we're not at Vaikahe Nursery, that's my nursery, we're not bagging the trees. It's open pollinated. So some of these dwarfs, could be yellow green, or crossing, but they're going to be dwarf. They're all going to have these dwarf characteristics. We weed all the tall trees out. And then next, I think, is a red Malaysian. That's a good shot. So yeah, and some of these trees, they weren't taken care of like they should have been. So, these trees, they could be, super productive if they were in ideal conditions. This is a red Malayan. Some of the pests we have here in Hawaii and the diseases, we definitely don't have as much as the rest of the world. So we're blessed. But, fungal diseases are kind of what I see killing trees the most. Boron is important for that. The varilla mite is another one, and that's pretty common. It's a mite that kind of eats away at the husk and sucks out nutrients. And so that can lead to, premature dropping of the fruits, and those are kind of the two major pests. The rhinoceros beetle just made it to Oahu like in the last 5 years or so. I haven't heard, anything recently, so I don't think it's becoming a crazy problem. It's not on any of the outer islands. But dwarf coconuts is planting dwarfs is kind of like an easy way to observe the rhinoceros beetle. That bores into the crown and then will kill the tree, eating the heart out. But with dwarfs, you can kind of observe that rather than tall trees. So another benefit of planting dwarfs. What do we got next here? Oh yeah, the usefulness. The coconut palm is the tree of life, and there's infinite amount of uses for the produce and the different parts of the tree. See, what do we got next here? Oh, this is a good diagram. So that's what I was talking about earlier, the nectar from the flower. It's the unopened flower. So before the flower opens, the flower is cut and this nectar will drop out, and it's really high in sugar. So it can be evaporated into granule sugar or reduced into syrup. And of course, you can make all sorts of things out of that, or fermented into vinegar or wine. And then we have the water here for hydration. That's the tender nut. That's at about 6 months. I think that's probably about what this age is over here. That's when we harvest for drinking. And then the mature nut is about 12 months, and that's the ideal age to harvest for cream, for milk, and all those other products. Desiccated, flour. And then, the byproducts, not the unedible, products, the husk can be spun into rope or used for compost. I'm sure a lot of you know that the husk is some of the best medium for planting. And then the shell, can be turned into biochar or activated carbon, and used for crafts as well. So super, super useful. And that's just scratching the surface, right? That's just the products from the coconuts itself and the nectar. So moving on, what else do we got? Okay, here's a flower that was used, or someone's using to collect the nectar. Next. Thank you guys for helping. Doing great. So yeah, Hawaii's location, we're so remote and we don't have a lot of these diseases that the rest of the world has. So it's really important for us to grow these varieties and conserve them, so that they continue into the future. There's so much potential growing these trees out. So I think we're getting close to the end here. What do we got next? Yeah, and getting back to creating a community kind of a community-led industry. There's a lot of smallholders in Hawaii. 1 acre farms, 5 acre farms. So coconuts can be a great addition to farms, or they can be actually the main products that are being produced from the farm. So and we're just at the beginning of this. Like, I've been working with coconuts for the last 10 years, trying to get some traction with creating a community cooperative processing facility. But there's these hurdles, right? There's a lot of the trees out there are tall, so hard to harvest, expensive, and so that's why I've been collecting dwarfs, and I have this nursery to make it more accessible for people, and make coconut farming actually viable in Hawaii. To get over these hurdles that we have: expensive labor, expensive land. and we can talk more about that later. But what's the next one here? This is about me. Yeah, my story kind of began after I graduated high school. I was climbing coconut trees a lot, selling coconuts at the market, but having to climb. And I got really into researching and finding out more about the global coconut industry and what was happening. And I was able to meet my mentor, David Lobo. In 2012, he has the largest coconut hybridization operation in the world, and he was shocked. He came to Hawaii. He was shocked that all the coconut trees get trimmed and taken to the green waste. Like none of our coconut trees are really being utilized. So he was like, "You guys need to get on top of this," and that was 10 years ago. And we're here now. He came to Kauai, actually. I think that's actually the next slide. It shows, oh yeah, well, this is our mission. So I have a nursery, but I also have this organization that's kind of just like in the beginning stages, or this, not the beginning stages, but kind of this, just kind of getting traction, right? Because coconuts aren't super prolific. The industry is not prolific yet. So what we're trying to do is, help initiate this by, providing the planting material, also the processing facilities, and the education needed to kind of build that traction to start the industry, to initiate the industry. So the next slide, I think, is David. Yeah, so there's David. He came to visit us, and so in his hybridization operation, he uses the yellow and the red Malaysians, and those are we have those. So we were really happy to hear about those are pretty much the most valuable varieties. But of course, diversity is important as well. I think we have about 5 minutes, so let's wrap it up. And
my question is about the seawater. You mentioned watering them with seawater.
Yes.
How much can you overdo it with seawater, or how much, how little?
Yeah, so that also kind of depends on, plants. If you have companion plants around your tree, coconuts can take, 1 to 3. Like I recommend 1 to 3, 1 part ocean water, 3 parts fresh water. But it could be increased too if you're, depending on how rainy it is in your area. If it's getting washed away, that's one factor. So, but yeah, 1 to 3 is usually a good, and that's like you can water with ocean water every 3 months. So do another application. And spraying the crown too as well.
What's up, man? Thanks for the presentation. Are you tapping any of these dwarf red Malayans? And if so, what kind of production are you getting out of it per day?
I am not tapping. I haven't tapped any flowers. I really want to get into it. But I think it's a potential industry that could just be, or a potential product that could be created for the Hawaii market, just by itself. So, but I've heard that really healthy trees can produce up to 1 liter, and you have to harvest it every 12 hours because it starts fermenting. But a healthy tree can produce a liter from one flower every 12 hours, and then when you harvest it, you have to slice it again. So that's 2 liters a day from one flower. There's multiple flowers in the crown. Yeah, so.
So when you harvest for the nectar, you're not going to get fruit.
Right, yeah, you're cutting the flowers, you're cutting the coconuts. You can have coconuts producing while you're, tapping another flower. But yeah, that flower is not going to be for coconuts anymore.
We have a question from Zoom. How often do you apply the ocean water? What about when we're at higher elevation so we can encourage fruiting? Do you spray the trees with ocean water too?
Yes, you can spray the crown. That really helps. Even using compost tea and ocean water and kind of a variety of things. But yeah, mulching and adding the ocean water every 3 months, every 3 to 4 months, is ideal for feeding. But adding other things too, like if you're at a higher elevation, just really trying to boost the fertility. Lots of mulch, lots of nutrients, and especially when you're up higher, you want maximum sunlight. So cutting any shade from around the tree will help.
I have a question, Trent, and sorry if you spoke to it. I've been running around a little bit, but
Yeah.
I was wondering, you talked about some of the pests, to deal with, and what would you recommend is the best way to manage, your trees so that you don't get the pests, or if you do, how do you deal with that?
Right. So a lot of times, when the trees have a weak immune system, it's missing nutrients or it's missing, minerals. So making sure your tree has everything that it needs, full spectrum of minerals and micronutrients. Just creating that healthy environment. But there's, for fungus, there's, stuff you can get at the store, fungicide and stuff that you can spray with the tree. When it's younger, it's a little bit more susceptible to the fungal, I think it's Phytophthora. But yeah, and pests, the mite, there's miticide, there's, different things you can, a lot of things are available at the store, the garden store. But, in general, creating a healthy environment for the tree is the best way to start. So, yeah. Yeah, you can spray with ocean water, compost teas. That also really helps. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you can.
When you mentioned about the watering initially, so real big soaking, and then the regular watering, can you do those, let's call it 10 gallons a day or whatever? Can you do that by a drip, or does it have to be a flooding?
Well, yeah, you can do it by a drip. You want to have multiple drip points around the tree because it's a root ball. So, getting that water spread around will allow the root ball to kind of grow in more of a uniform way and allow for more nutrient absorption. So, and with fertilizing too, you kind of want to, visualize the root ball, right? It's just circular all around the tree, trying to get that nutrients and water kind of, it doesn't have to be equally, but spread around more. Yeah, it's ideal. Yeah, thank you all for coming. I think we have one more presenter, and
questions.
okay.
Can I
We
ask
have another
another question? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting excited to fertilize all my trees, and I'm gonna do fish and bone meal. I got a tote of fish and bone meal coming from Oahu Bacon Commodities. It's like the cheapest nitrogen fertilizer in the state, and so I'm gonna do like fish and bone meal. I'm doing lots of mulches, and I'm gonna do some lime. And then I've done some salt water already. I was doing 40-to-1, but it was the K&F recipe. And I know that the coconut trees can handle more.
Right.
But I'm also going to do boron. I got like the pelleted boron. And
Okay.
I think someone said it was a teaspoon per tree, like really small amount of boron. Do you know
Right.
how much boron?
I would look
advise?
that up. Yeah. So there's a lot of good resources out there. But the DJ group, so that's David Lobo's organization. He's got a website, and he has all the ratios for fertilization,
Right.
and those are hybrids. So you could probably even cut those in half, like what he's using, because his hybrids will suck up a lot of nutrients. The dwarfs are growing a little slower, so they don't need as much. But for dwarf, there's not that much information about fertilizing dwarfs out there. So what I recommend is just basically, seeing what people recommend for tall trees, and then cutting it in half or a third, and then just seeing, observing the tree, and if there are coconuts dropping off, maybe add a little bit more boron, or spraying with ocean water or something like that. Just adding to your fertilization process.
A couple more quick things. So often I see people cutting green coconut palm leaves. Can you share with people like why that's not a good idea?
Right.
And then also, can you talk about like what are some ideal mulching strategies around, and like how do you incorporate the brown leaves once you remove them from the tree into mulch systems?
Yeah, so cutting the green fronds kind of increases vertical growth, and if you're harvesting green nuts as well, that's also going to be contributing to a little bit more growth. But if you're looking at a production farm, sometimes that's good, creating more vigor in the tree. If your tree is kind of stagnant, cutting some fronds off, might not be the worst thing. But when you're mulching with you can mulch with the fronds. There's this caterpillar that lives in the coconut trees. If your tree has that, you probably don't want to mulch with those fronds. You want to kind of burn them or get them far away from your trees. But yeah, using fronds isn't a bad thing for mulching. But when you're looking at the root ball of a tree, it goes out pretty far, but basically, a good 5 to 10 feet, is a and the edge of that, the edge of 5 feet is probably a good place to start putting your nutrients and mulch. You can use the mulch for weed suppression, like closer in, but a lot of the nutrient absorption will be kind of outer at about that 5 to 10 foot radius. So. Hey.
So you said the Malaysian red and yellow were the most valuable. I was just wondering why.
Yeah, so they are a little bit more disease resistant. A lot of breeding programs around the world use the Malaysians for creating hybrids. Probably because some early flowering characteristics. I've heard that the Malaysians can flower within 2 years, in ideal conditions, and I usually just tell people, yeah, like 4 to 5 years is when you want to expect, but like sometimes, dwarfs can flower before that 4-year period, like even 3 years, So Malaysians are known to flower pretty early. And also they are, like, I think they're the most valuable, kind of dwarf in Hawaii because they're the rarest, like, or one of the rarest. So,
Okay.
and they're beautiful colors and all that, so.
And in your opinion, I know not everyone will have the same, but which one do you think, out of the varieties that you grow, which one do you think tastes the best?
Well, that's a great question. So I have recently discovered I believe it's a Filipino dwarf in South Kona. It's like they weren't in the original collection that I've kind of taken over stewardship of. These are kind of these green dwarfs. They've got like a little pink husk on the inside, nice and round. But to me, those kind of taste the sweetest.
Nice.
It's the Filipino pilipog, it's called. And right now, there's like about 4 trees that I'm harvesting the seeds from. So eventually I'll be able to offer those in our nursery. But at this point, we're just kind of trying to stabilize the genetics and stabilize the population.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Just wondering how we can follow what you're doing online.
We just started building our website, and so we're pretty low tech, but and we just started a Instagram page, so we'll keep adding information to that. What is it called? Niu Hui 808. Yeah, and our nursery is Vaikahe Nursery, Flowing Water, and it's kind of our mission is to reforest and regreen so that we can get the rivers flowing again. So plant trees. And so I brought some trees over here today. Majorly discounted trees over here, and our nursery is in by Niuli'i Stream too. So I'll be around so we can exchange contact information too if you guys are interested.
I'll share all of that with all the attendees after the workshop.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll make that available.
Sasha's going to speak for a few minutes.
Oh, wonderful.
In life and business, and I'll think.
Hi, aloha. I just wanted to add that we did bring some material from DJ Group today, just as far as fertilizing goes and pests and diseases that are present, and what organic farming techniques you can use to deal with that in your trees. If you guys have questions, you can come find us after, and we can talk story about also planting strategies and the spacing and what kind of areas you're working with. There's all sorts of different techniques depending. So if you guys have any questions.
And it's also online too. It's on their website.
Online. Yeah, so they're just an amazing resource. And I just wanted to mention too, Hawaii is really unique because we don't have a lot of these pests and diseases. And there's some really incredible organizations on Oahu, Niu Now, which is through the University of Hawaii. And there's just a lot of momentum on all the other islands, and it's so exciting to be a part of it. And I'm so glad we're all here to do it together. So.
Yeah, thank you.
So next up, Dash from HipAg will be doing a demonstration of the coconut husker machine that Kohala Food Hub has now. So you all can check out how that works.
We're still working out the kinks, and it's but this question, right?
So yeah, if we have all these trees, maybe we can have a gleaner that goes around and harvests, and it's going to have to be, the tricky part or tricky aspect with this is how do we get the perfect stage of maturity, because what we're going to want to sell is going to be something in between a jelly nut and a rubber meat. And so that's a timing thing. But if we're on a regular schedule of going around and harvesting these dwarf coconut orchards, then we can get that flow happening within the community. And we already have the walk-in coolers down at the Kohala Food Hub. This machine lives down here. I do want to take a moment to shout out and mahalo a dear brother and friend of mine, Bennett Dorrance, because he is committed to food systems and food security. He is in the house. Big up, Bennett. Shout him out. And he is sponsoring this educational series, and I do believe because of his commitments to food security in North Kohala that we are more food secure now and that we're going to be in the future. And he enabled us to basically pilot this machine and get this going so that we have a guaranteed market. We also, Westside Hotels are wanting to buy these. So Mauna Kea, Hapuna Prince, they're kind of lined up and saying we're ready. And it's just about, again, getting more people to plant right now. So we're working out the kinks, and there's like a sizing thing, so you kind of got to adjust the size, but we can go for it. So then, usually this is mounted to a table, this knife here, which cuts the end of it. And so now and then the next step, which is really exciting, is we actually, we're getting the drill press, and we have caps that tie in here. So this will be ready to drink. You could maybe get it at Kohala Grown, Farmer's Market, or Westside Hotel. So suddenly we're creating a whole new coconut market, and we also brand these. Right now we have a brand, and we can do the hip logo, but we're going to be branding them specifically for the hotels. So like Mauna Kea can serve a coconut that says Mauna Kea Resort on it. Yeah. And we're hoping our goal, we're still figuring out what the price point is going to be for the growers. As a farmer myself, my hope is we'd be able to do $3 a nut. Oh. Thanks. We're still figuring out the price point for the growers, but we're hoping we could do $3 a nut. And so if you look at like average yields of a dwarf coconut, you guys can start doing the math. And as you're building a farm, right, it's all about diversification. So if you envision you have X amount of coconuts that are going to yield X amount of dollars to your farm annually, and then you're going to also have a block of maia or bananas. You're going to have a little patch of taro, right? And ideally, you're growing all these things, and you can keep bringing your crop in to the hub. Yeah, please.
So when you buy those skinned husk coconuts at fancy grocery stores, they are white. So is there some kind of spray or something that is put on them to keep them from oxidizing?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we dip these in so we'll be dipping them in methyl. Do you remember the name of the preservative? It's like a common food preservative. Yeah. So we dip them in that, and it keeps them white. It's not formaldehyde, which I've heard that they use formaldehyde in some countries to dip them and keep them white. So there is a more natural way that we can do that. And then once they're shaved down like this, they can go into the walk-in, and they can last for 3 weeks. Yeah. Please.
When you said that the big hotels are interested, did you mean not just the machine, but did you also mean, when you go to these resorts, right, they cut all the coconuts off so they don't fall and hurt guests and the patient. So do you also mean that they are interested in harvesting those coconuts as well, or food or whatever, or just, you're just talking about?
I was just talking about them purchasing coconuts right now. I don't know if they're ready to commit to start cultivation, but that's actually a really good idea. I mean, maybe when they're doing their rounds, they're ending up with extra young nuts, and there's a way to funnel those into the system. I'm going to be reaching out to every coconut climber in North Kohala that we can that's climbing on a regular basis. And if you guys have existing trees, there's actually a few climbers in the house today that may still be trimming. So you could have someone here, trim your trees, and then we can get those coconuts to the hub as well. Would be really great.
Do you know if there's going to be any effort with the hotels to, after the drinks have been drunk from the coconut, that they recycle, repurpose those?
We're having a conversation about it, and we don't have an answer for you in this moment, but it's definitely on our mind. We really, in a perfect world, we would have a tub grinder down at at the Kohala Food Hub, and then all of the excess coconut waste, like every little bit, goes in the tub grinder, and then we have a really nice kind of coconut core material. I mean, it won't be as nice as like what we're seeing, but it will be a great mulch product that we could offer as well. So we just need a expensive tub grinder for that. If anybody wants to help us get one, I got a card right here. No. Consuming. Yeah, I envision, my hope is that they'll always be available at Saturday Market, and they'll always be available at Kohala Grown. And the challenge that we face is price point. Because, as Trent was talking about, like the real value of the coconut's probably $10 a nut from a tall tree climb, do you know what I mean? But the going rate right now that a climber can get is maybe $3, and so how do we get it? It's going to be harder to get someone in town to buy it for 10, where the hotel might buy it for 8 and sell it for 16, or they'll sell it for 20 with rum in it. So like, it's just these economies, and this is part of that big puzzle, and like we by no means have all these answers figured out, but luckily we have a genius Kohala Food Hub director, and some really smart team, and some great people in the space, that can help us collaboratively envision this economy. And this is just one aspect of it too, right? The coconuts, but potentially one of the most, like a solid pillar and a foundation for which we're gonna grow other co-crops. And the Kohala Food Hub this last year was also aggregating all the ulu from the ulu co-op growers in North Kohala. It was all going down to the food hub, because then we could put it in the walk-ins, and then we sent it on a delivery down to South Kona where it could get processing. So there's there's other opportunities for different co-crops we can grow.
Hi, I'm new to the island and to this, so perhaps this already exists. This is such an amazing community between the growers and the climbers, the harvesters, all this kind of stuff. Is there one place where we can reach out to people? Like, I have existing coconut palms, so I'd love to be in touch with the climbers. Is there a way to do that on the website?
Joe, are you climbing? Can I mention you? Or? All right. Not really, not right now, no. I want to introduce Joey. He's a professional coconut climber in our community here. I want to shout out Sky is in the back. He's also doing some climbing. So in terms of getting your trees harvested, I think you guys can talk and collaborate. In terms of like hub kind of resource information and knowledge base, I don't know if there's a standing resource in that regard. Like, we have a living library of educational videos that educate on a lot of the crops and kind of like gardening methodology we're talking about today on the Hip Agriculture YouTube. So that like might be a good place, like if you're newer to island, to just start getting more familiar with the different crops that can be grown. And that's just like YouTube / like Hip Agriculture. There's a whole bunch of videos. We did a 14 video series. Maya will share more about it. She produced the series. Please.
I believe that it's in process, but there is this vision for Kohala Ke'ia, a website. This was a book that was a resource of information, and people are working on how to best put information in for people that are from here and new people arriving to Kohala to better and best acquaint yourself with the culture here and with the way that we greet each other and practices and things to know about this place. So that's in process. I believe Joelle and Kathy Matsuda are in process of working on that. Yeah. All right, so we're ready to talk about food, which is my favorite thing to talk about. And, just to go along with this vision, I envision we have to have many different outlets for every different stage of the coconut. This is talking about the fresh water nuts. We also need which Sasha and I talk about, and she has a big vision for the coconut cream and what do we do with the brown nuts. And if you guys are wanting to incorporate fresh coconut into your diet, you can do it. Children can do it because the brown nuts that I made some food for you guys today to trial come from the nuts that I pick off the ground that fell off the tree. There's no climbing involved. They're there, and then there's some amazing huskers, and I use an axe to chop open the brown nuts and making coconut milk. We have a video on our YouTube channel that shows how to make coconut milk. It's really simple. My favorite way to drink coffee is with fresh coconut milk. It hardly takes any time at all. And so why don't we all envision that we're drinking coconuts that aren't bottled and shipped in, but it's from a fresh coconut. And the coconut milk we're consuming that's so good for us is we're making it or sourcing it from somebody else. If we're able to get to the processing and the coconut hui comes alive and is able to process those mature nuts into milk that we freeze, then we can all have access to fresh coconut milk. And that's what I envision. So I have some samples I'm going to have somebody help hand out. And it's cassava mochi muffins. And it's a really great recipe that's simple using cassava that's fresh and grown and homemade coconut milk that's very creamy. And so you guys all get to try that. And it has cacao in it too. And for lunch today, we're asking for a donation. And I have a fresh farm coconut curry. So I'm not using a pre-made powder, but I'm just using some fresh herbs and spices from our farm. I have kefir lime, and I have some jalapeno and ginger and turmeric and cilantro and green onion and fresh Thai basil, and we have some fresh kale from the farm in there, some fresh cocoa yams and sweet potato. No, I don't use canned coconut milk. And if you're in a bind and you want to have backup, I recommend buying the frozen coconut milk and having in stock. If sometimes you're in a jam, like I like having that just in case I don't have time. But these days, I'm not making excuses, and I just make the time, and you get into the flow. You just have to do it, and it becomes easier and easier. So that is my recommendation, and I'm putting it out on you guys. I want to see all of you guys making some fresh coconut milk. Yeah. So on our table here and over there, there is a tool. You can get it online or at Kohala Grown. And it's the coconut meat tool, I call it. And it's a safe way to just pop the meat out besides by using like a butter knife or something. Any other questions? No. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, like I learned from Uncle David and how the Hawaiians did it and a lot of different cultures. A traditional way to get the meat out is you're not trying to pry it out, but you just cut it in half, and you don't even have to cut it with anything. You knock the shell and it naturally cracks in half. And then if you have this thing that's kind of like a scraper that you put on a tool that you sit on, or it's this tabletop thing, that you're just kind of grinding the coconut meat out of the shell. And it makes it kind of like shave ice and fluffy, and you squeeze it and pure coconut cream comes out, and it's like the best thing on earth. Yeah.
But I kind of like to open up around the cap first, and some of the other brothers might have some other techniques that they like. But I like to get around the cap first and open it up. And if you hit it too hard on the stake, it can break. And these are some great coconut huskers. This one was actually given to me by Tim Head. And then Larry Poppy, who's here today, he also makes a really nice coconut husker that he has for sale today, I believe. So just kind of go around that first part and pull this off. And we have had a lot of children do this as well. You know, at our different like field trip programs for youth, we get them husking coconuts and children can do it. And then, you know, you could, you know how it's like the face, right? And there's the mouth, and the mouth is where you can open if you want to get that little bit of water out there. The Brazilian tools are really good for opening this mouth up, and then you can just strip out the water, but I'm going to lose it right now. I like to use the backside of the machete to crack these, and you can just rotate them. And if you're lucky, you can at least get a little bit of water. You lose some water like that, but... And then this is a tool that's really great for popping the meat out. And that like really helps a lot. And a lot of people do use this tool wrong, and they kind of like will pry it. They'll push it in and then pry it, and that's how you break them. But I find that a little twist does better. So I like push and twist, push, twist, push, twist. You know, if you like let this sit on the counter for 12 hours in the sun or just out, the meat will shrink and it'll get easier to pop out. Or if you put it in the oven for like 30 minutes at a low temp, it will also shrink and the whole thing might just pop out. But often, just because we're doing it fresh like this, we'll throw it all in the Vitamix and then we grind it up and run that through in that seed bag. And what, you made 3 gallons yesterday, or how long did it take you?
What's great is if you harvest several brown nuts off the ground, you open them up, you get the meat out, and you stick it in the freezer, and then that's the easiest way that I can have fresh coconut milk on hand, is that I'll just take it out of the freezer, put hot water on top, blend it up, and strain it. So the pre-work was already done, so I was able to make, you know, almost 3 gallons in an hour.
Super fun. Thank you, Dash, for doing that. So again, my name is Maya Parrish, and I just have a few kind of logistics, housekeeping, action items, ways for you all to get involved with this initiative that I can share with you right now. And I'm kind of wearing 2 hats today. I'm both working alongside Dash and Erica to present this Seed to Market initiative throughout the whole course of 2022 and hopefully beyond. And then I also am newly working with Kohala Food Hub as the director there as well. And Kohala Food Hub is currently a project of Hip Agriculture, so it's all related, but also kind of distinct in terms of the operations and what each one of them offers. So if you're interested in getting involved with the Seed to Market initiative, you're already doing it because you're already here with us at our first workshop. And we will have 4 other workshops that are really specifically focused on specific crops over the course of 2022. It's going to be every other month. So our next one is in April 9th, and it's a Kalo and Ava workshop with Kaiana Runnels. Then we'll have on June 25th a citrus and uala workshop, that's sweet potato, with Ken Love, and a sweet potato educator to be determined. On August 27th, we'll have Ulu and Olena with somebody from the Ulu Cooperative here, and Dash Kerr will be educating on Olena, on turmeric. And then on October 22nd, we'll have Mai'a, the bananas, and plantain varieties as well. And everybody who's here, if we have your email address, you'll get all of that information via email. All of the workshops will be live streamed on Zoom. And we have this amazing group right here from Sacred Mirror Media, Jeremiah and Thomas, and they are filming this whole workshop. They'll be editing it as well, and then we'll be uploading it to the YouTube channel of Hip Agriculture. So it will live on as an educational resource, and feel free to share it widely. It really is going to take a lot of people to get this revolution going. So So that's one way to get involved. Another way to get involved with this is to volunteer for planting days. The planting days will likely be more closer to the fall, makahiki season, when we have a lot of that natural rainfall. And we're looking, kind of both. Everybody here who's purchasing tree stock today, who's going to go home and plant it, we're considering you as involved and kind of counting those numbers toward our goals. And we're going to have larger sites as well. And for the larger sites where people are planting orchards of at least 50 to 75 trees, maybe more, we can help coordinate some volunteer labor for you. And you all may be the volunteer laborers, right? So please feel free to sign up, and we'll be tapping our network as well. But if you'd like to volunteer, that's a really excellent way to get involved. Maybe you're a renter, maybe you don't own your own land, don't have it to plant out, but you can still be a part of this movement and a part of this revolution. So we welcome you to do that. And if you have a lot of acreage, if you are one of those people who has a lot of acreage who wants to plant out a big orchard, please talk to us, and we're able to support you that way. Another way that you can just help us out, we have a post-workshop survey that we developed that just helps us improve as we continue to make these offerings through the year. And there are QR codes. There's one posted right there on the wall. There's one posted right there. You can just scan it with your camera today. And if you can fill out that survey just while you're here so you don't forget, that would really be helpful for us so we can continue to improve. And then in terms of Kohala Food Hub, if you all have any excess produce, tree crops, starch crops, etc., that is more than you need to feed your family, please talk to me. We're looking for lots of producers, and we want to continue to really make that a thriving network. So Kohala Food Hub is an aggregator, marketer, and distributor of local produce. We're based right here. We have a site down Ho'ea Road right here in Hawi. And what we do right now is we have a local food marketplace. It's an online marketplace, and it's open for shopping every Friday from 12:30 to Monday at 11 p.m. And so that's your shopping period. And it's kind of like a midweek farmer's market, because then we send all of the tickets to the producers of what's been ordered late Monday night, right after we close. They bring it to the Food Hub on Tuesday, and then we deliver and have it available for pickup on Wednesdays. So it's kind of your midweek pick-me-up after your farmer's market. We're not in competition with. We're just trying to expand your ability to access fresh produce throughout the week. So if you're not already an account member, I can give you that information about how to sign up, and you get a discount for your first order. So you can talk to me about that as well. And the most exciting thing that I'm very excited about with Kohala Food Hub right now is that we're launching a multi-farm CSA. And that's because, a lot of the farms here have production, but maybe not enough to support a full CSA. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And we're doing 3-month increments, kind of 3-month seasons. And we're working with a number of farms in the area who have already planted out for the CSA. We've been working on this for several months. Some of our producers include Howie with Lotus Organics. He's usually at the farmer's market every Saturday, grows amazing greens, kale, etc. Lokahi is another farm, which is down Ho'ea Road. They grow great sweet potatoes. They're planting out eggplants. They've got a lot of herbs, a lot of tree crops over there as well. Hip Farm is one of our producers, and they're planting out all kinds of things. They got this beautiful purple sweet cauliflower and a lot of other greens and other good veggies. One Village Farm, which is out in Niuli'i as well. Travis will be supplying us as well. And Laura from Halenalukea, who's right over there, she grows the most amazing avocados. If you haven't had one of her Charwell avocados, I highly recommend it. They're delicious. And I think last we talked anyway, she was going to be planting out a little bit of a market garden with some sweet peppers, spicy peppers, squash, etc. So we'll see. And anybody else who wants to participate as a producer, we are looking for you. We want to make sure that we can have this consistent 3-month amount of produce, and hopefully we'll get a lot of shares. So the way that works up, you can sign up with me today if you want to become a CSA member. It's starting the first week of April. It'll happen on Wednesdays, same as our normal Kohala Food Hub schedule. You can either pick up your share at the Kohala Food Hub, or you can have it delivered to your doorstep for an additional fee. And we're also going to be serving the Kauai High Market with the CSA. Kauai High Marketplace, I'm not sure if anybody knows yet where Kauai High Marketplace is. It's right down at that kind of junction. And they're going to be our pickup spot for anybody who lives in that area. So that's Kauai High Village, Kailapa Hawaiian Homes, Kohala by the Sea, Kohala Waterfront, Mauna Kea Resort. Anybody who's in that area, instead of having to drive all the way up to Waimea for your midweek farmers market, you can pick it up right in Kauai High. So if you know anybody who lives in that area, we'd much appreciate you spreading the word for that as well. So any details that you'd like to know about any of those things that I just talked about, please come see me. I'll be at a table right out there after the workshop. And now we're going to have one more speaker. He's a legend in the agricultural community here in Kohala. He's been mentoring, training, teaching, producing local agriculture, building Kohala food security system for way before I even arrived here on this island. So we're very honored to have him with us. He's going to speak. Then we're going to walk out to do a live planting demo of a coconut so everybody can get that hands-on experience. And then we invite you to come back for lunch and live music by Kelly Hyde. So thank you all so much for coming. And without further ado, David Fuertes of Kahua Pa'amua.
Aloha. What you said? Aloha. Okay, sounds more like Kohala now. A lot of information, Maya. Thank you very much. Everybody got that, right? Oh, man, lucky we have computers, yeah? By the way, thank you very much for inviting me. You know, us guys, we're just small little potatoes trying to make something happen in Kohala. And thank you very much. I want to say shout out to Bennett over there. You know, he kind of always in the back over there, and he's sitting behind. But a lot of his ideas and his resources is making Kohala a big difference in agriculture. Can I take this off? Hot, man. And also thank you to Dash and Maya for inviting me. We're Kahua Pa'amua. We have a small little project down at Ho'ea and also at Kapanaya. But basically our purpose, actually, I always use these four things. Yeah? One, origin. Okay. Two, values. Three, purpose. And four, destiny. You know. So the origin in Kohala is we were all agriculturalists. How can, before Captain Cook came, 30,000 people feeding themselves. Today, 5,600, and we're still bringing in probably 90% of our food. How can? Okay. How can that, and now no can? So that's the origin. So our values is we believe can, yeah. And if we go to our community development plan, we wanted to say 50% of our food that we eat on our table comes from Kohala. So when you look at your plate, 50% of that, either you raise in your backyard, either you trade it with someone, either you bought it from the store, whatever came from, or hunt or fish, come from Kohala. That's our goal. That was our CDP plan, you know. So we believe can. Okay, our purpose, Kahua Pa'amua, and the rest of the nonprofits that's working together is to create that venue where we can be able to make the food production happen in Kohala, you know. And our destiny is that 50% and also beyond that, okay. So there's a saying that goes, and we talked about vision, yeah. Vision without action is merely a dream, correct? Action without vision is waste of time. Make sense? But vision plus action can change the world. So I think we can in Kohala. What do you guys think? Can? Yeah. Okay. Where are you doing this video for? You know, us guys kind of low key. You know, we don't like be that kind. But okay, let me. So our program is we got two actually things that we're working with, educating our youngsters, and we call it the HA program, BRAT, right? Educating our youngsters so that they can learn about agriculture. And the other one is the OR family. OR stands for, what OR stands for? Ohana Agricultural Resilience, and they were last year cohort. We have another person in the back, which is one of our cohort over there, the Wheelie's family over there, yeah. But what we do, give them a hand, you guys. And this project is we give them 100 feet row, and we give them 2 rows, and we interface Korean natural farming and organic farming, and we help them to grow something, to learn something, and the whole intent to make this 50% happen. We call it the backyard revolution, where they go back home after 1 year. After 1 year, they either have an aquaponic system, and it's all free. Aquaponic system, or they have a chicken tractor system, or it could be a hog pen, you know, of raising 2 pigs. So, and the whole thing is so that after 1 year, they can grow vegetable and probably sell or trade or whatever. So let me ask you a question. I got something over here that just came from the Orr family. No, this came from the Hoff family. Okay, and I'm going to use this for door prize, okay? I'm going to ask one question, yeah? This is very fresh, straight out of the chicken this morning. So if you get this, please wash it, okay? Because you know where the egg come from, okay? How many years does it take on the average for when you plant the coconut? How many years does it take before it can really bear fruit? Raise your hand. 4 to 5. Is that correct? Okay, give her a hand, you guys. Please wash it. Okay. Okay, here's one from our family. That was from the kids. Here's one from our family. Just speak today. It's watermelon cucumbers, and this came from Malia Welch. Okay. This is a question. I don't know if you guys, this was ever pointed out. Where on this island where most of the coconut grows in the old Hawaiian days? Where? There were 2 places on this island. Close to the beach, but what area? Okay, it was Puna and Kona area. Okay. Usually it was close to the beach. Why? Because there was a lot of water, you know. And then, of course, when the coconut goes in the ocean, it lands on the shoreline, and that's where you get your coconut. Okay. Okay, I got to give this away. How much did this machine cost? There you go. That's $3,200 worth of cucumber. Okay. So I don't want to waste too much time, but thank you very much for the time. And if you guys want to be part of us, we're going to do an agroforest. Anybody heard of agroforest? Yeah. Okay, so agroforest, Craig Alovich is our instructor. He's the writer of a couple books, and we're going to do it at Kapanaya. And we're now looking at the site in which we have chosen, and it's at a slope. But to create the terrace, what we did was we had pigs do it for us. We put them in cages and we move them every week, and it kind of created a terrace for us, a natural terrace. And at the same time, take out the weeds. But anyway, we're going to be doing that, and that agroforest workshop is free. When we install it, probably going to be in June or so, you know. And we're also going to be partnering with them to do different type of workshops. I'm sorry, some of them are pretty intense and cannot have too many people on it. It's going to be a grafting workshop we're going to start with your place, and we're going to do citrus, yeah. But I was just thinking, is anybody really want to get into the soil and volunteer with us? Anybody who think that they like do something like that maybe once a week? Raise your guys' hand. No, be honest with me now, okay? Because when you guys come, we're going to feed you guys, okay? But you know, we're just thinking about that, how we can put it together, and then maybe on a Saturday or whatever, we come and we plant and we, you know, and we do what we need to do, but we do it all without chemicals, okay? So, pardon? Oh, what you said? Okay, because it's a small area, we're gonna be using edibles, you know, like mountain apple, lihua uhia'ai, yeah? Mountain apple, and then we're gonna have ava, and we're gonna have a lot of medicinal vauke. We're gonna have different kind. Mostly gonna be medicinal, you know, and also intercropping it with food plants. So that's what. And agroforest actually, if you went to Samoa and you look at their agriculture, it's not linear. Yeah, it's plants planted in strategic places where it can complement each other. So if you look at a forest up in the mountain and it's flourishing and the fruits are just abundant and the understory is growing so well, it's because of all of these microbes complementing each other, yeah? And that's what we want to do, okay? So it's more trying to start something that we don't know enough about that we'd like to. So without further ado, Maya, I'm gonna plant, I'm gonna do the planting.
Yeah, I think you, maybe Dash and Trent could all kind of lead that, the live demo of planting, and we can all walk over. It's on site. It's just a little bit away.
So this is how the Hawaiians planted it, okay? Now, it's gonna be hard for you guys because no more that many species around that we're gonna use to put in the ground, but the Hawaiians did have it, and the purpose why they did use that particular species, it was an octopus with the legs spreading out, yeah? And they put it down first, you know, and then they put the coconut on top and they plant it. And they didn't plant it too deep, okay? They didn't know why, scientifically, what made that thing grow as flourished as it did. But we know that the octopus, and of course it has salt, came from the salt water, you know, it helps with the pH, you know. We know that when that octopus starts to ferment, it turns into nitrogen, yeah. But that's how we did it. So because they asked me to do it, we're gonna do it the way the Hawaiians did it, okay? But I get one thing that I gotta show you with this octopus is if you look on top, it says taco bait. I stole this from my grandson. He was going to use this for fishing. So he took a couple legs out already, you know. So forgive me, it's not a full octopus, but you know, get only 7 legs, okay? Anyway, everybody, I hope you guys have a good day. Sorry for taking too much of your time. Aloha!
So if I was at home on my farm and, you know, I rolled up and I was like, oh yeah, I won't need a and, you know, I start digging here, I'm like, oh, soil's a little different out this side of town. It's like straight rock pit. Out in Niuli'i, it's like, you know, 8 feet of just loamy, delicious, black, rich soil. But when I'm at home and I have all my amendments, like in a perfect world, what I would do, and I was like kind of kicking myself, but I can come back and top dress this. But I would have liked to put a 5-gallon bucket of finished compost in here, which I could have grabbed from the farm this morning. I'd put like maybe a 5-gallon bucket of finished compost. I'd like to put maybe a couple cups of that fish and bone meal. You know, maybe a handful of lime. They love the coral sand. You know, if you're like, if you got money to spend, I would, you know, I'd get a dump load of coral sand on my farm, a dump load of blue rock. Oh, yeah. The blue rock, the real fine, the sand. All that's micro minerals.
A lot of magnesium in there.
Yeah. So I put like a shovel full of coral sand, a shovel full of, you know, the blue rock, and then mix that all up, get it all nice.
Chicken manure.
You know, put maybe a fish head or I really like the hei.
Yeah, that's what they use. And so,
But there's not too many of those left, so we don't.
yeah, no use that.
Example.
This is only for a kind of example.
Do they sell that at West White Concrete?
They do.
It's just like the,
Yeah. What, the hay? No. I'm gonna use this. Not like waste them. Okay, so normally. Like I said, I stole my grandson's bait, and so got only
cool, actually. It looks cool, but also gross.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So, and I'm gonna use the other legs for put on the side. You don't like go inside, eh? Okay. So you lay this flat. This is how I want. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it looks so gross. But it actually looks cool. Cool, but gross.
Then I will take the other parts that my son left me. My grandson. Haruto, he don't know. Don't tell him, yeah, I stole it. I took it. He left it in my freezer,
That is
so.
so cool. My God, it's cool, but
So
I
here's
don't
2
know
more
how to touch
legs.
it.
So I'm gonna spread it out like this.
That darker one looks like
Okay.
a snake. I think it looks
And then-
like an eel.
Go ahead, Trent. Put it how you would normally put it.
Okay.
So usually the wind comes from this direction here, yeah. So you don't want to plant it like this. You know, you want to kind of lean it towards the way the trade wind blows, so that when it does, depending what your landscape would look like, when the wind is blowing it, it'll raise it.
I'm gonna cut some of these broken roots too, because I just pulled them out. That looks pretty good. So they all kind of fit in to the hole nice. So they're not, the roots aren't bent. And then we can.
Here.
Rocks are good for drainage too, but you want to make sure the roots are all covered with soil. You don't want air pockets in there. Yeah, the rocks are great. Stabilize. Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that. Oh man.
Solid.
Hey. I'm gonna bust out a chant, but I figure
Please do.
I know you guys gonna tell me you bullshit, Uncle. That's not the right chant. And then always leave a water basin.
Berm, yeah. Berm 'em.
Yeah, you put a berm so that. Oh, and then if you like save water, you put a little bit plastic over here. You go an old plastic, and it rains, the water go right into it.
Yeah. Cardboard too. You put the cardboard with take the
Talking about cardboard.
plastic off.
Talking about cardboard, man, we gotta do something about that, huh?
Yeah.
You know how we can process that thing
Oh,
and
my
reuse it and
my
reuse
friends,
it.
my friends shredding it down at Maona.
Oh, I gotta
Maona
see that.
Community
We should
Garden.
bring that up to Kohala, you know, and use it
Yeah.
for mulch.
Yeah, they pull the tape off and the staples first. Pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like, I forget what it's called, but it makes it like that weird I believe Yeah, it's a cross cut and it doesn't go like that.
And if you can see in the background,
over there we got a couple young helpers coming to bring the mulch,
Oh, nice.
right? Because we're going to put some nice wood chip mulch around this. If you didn't have wood chips, you could do banana leaves, you know, palm leaves.
Banana stalk is too nice.
Yeah, nice banana stalk. We do like real heavy mulching on our farm around our coconuts, particularly.
Can you use pine needles too? Like a thick thing of pine needles?
Pine needles, they're pretty acid, yeah.
You know,
If they're
It
broken
works,
down
though.
already.
They
there's
break
some
them
debate
down.
about it, but Coconut Chris, he says the pine needles are a go, but it's more the roots by the ironwoods that are, you know, no go. So just make sure you don't plant close to the ironwood roots. But and obviously,
You can add, if you're adding a lot of pine, then you want to balance the pH out. You know, with ground crushed coral or lime. But yeah, I mean, a variety of things is good. So not relying too much on one. If the pine needles, you want, you know, small amount of pine needles, but a lot of other things too. Yeah. But biomass in general is good.
and fertilization, again, you can follow the program on DJ.
Yeah, if you're
farms.
going for production, coconut farming, there is a lot of resources out there. I recommend DJ Farms. Yeah, they've got a good series to follow. But yeah, every few months, I mean, coconuts they like eat. So
I honestly believe we could greatly increase the quality, consistency, and production if we get all our trees in North Kohala on drip and on timer. And I'd love to see more landowners do that. You know, it's like a lot of people put it in the ground, rainy season comes, it waters, it's doing pretty good, but then we get these pronounced dry times. And if you want the consistent, high quality nuts, let's get everything on drip, yeah? That'd be my recommendation.
That's the action.
Yeah.
I've even seen, you know, getting the OO bar, making a hole, and then putting a pipe, like a copper pipe in the ground, and so the water goes down further. There's less evaporation, right? So if you're getting it down, and they were putting 4 pipes.
Keep coming all the way around the gate
tree,
there.
So watering in 4 places, and you get down pretty deep, you know, like 2 or 3 feet. You get that water down there. There's going to be a lot less evaporation.
So, this is the end?
Yep, we're there. We're just
here. Close with when you're planting.
Put that right there.
When you're planting or when you're working with the land, the word aloha comes to not just our mind but our action. Okay? It starts with the mind. Aloha. Yeah. And what is aloha? Everybody.
Ha is the breath of life.
Aloha.
Ha is the breath of life.
The breath of life. Yeah. So when you aloha someone, alo means many things. Ha is breath. Okay. So you give your breath when you aloha. So when we greet each other, you know, we greeted with the ha. And a slight breath. So you're exchanging breath, right? So no difference when you're working with the soil. You aloha the land, okay? So then the white man came and they went like this.
Yeah.
And so the word came haole, ha, aole, no breath, you know. It's not derogatory, but that's just the interpretation. So I want to leave you with aloha, okay? So I have a card over here and you can spend it unlimited. I gave him one, yeah.
Very generous.
Generous. But and in the front it has misery. Yeah, without aloha. So if you plant a seed with unforgiveness, yeah, your fruit of the seed will be disunity. And you will harvest bitterness. Okay? But if you flip the card, if you plant the seed of forgiveness, Your fruit of the seed would be unity, and your harvest would be joy. Okay? So a whole bunch over here have forgiveness, patience, humility, respect, honesty, responsibility, commitment, discipline. Yeah, and that all of the encompass some of the aloha words. That if you do that, you know, this is going to be a better place for us to live in. But if you have disunity and you have irresponsibility, then your fruit of the seed would be immaturity and your harvest would be recklessness. Yeah, so true, yeah. So with that, we want to aloha all of you guys. Thank you very much for the workshop. I got 2 more. Anybody wants to start?
Oh, I would love one. I'll share it with my 5th grade. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, aloha you guys.
Yes, sure.
Couple more up here. Just 2 more. Okay, thank you.
Hey you guys, aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha, thank you.
So come get some fresh coconut water and come get lunch.